Hello folks, I'm Morgan Harper, a student in the Children Curriculum and Counting program at the Evergreen State College. And I'm here to answer the question, how do children learn? To answer this question, I'll be pulling information and quotes from Understanding the Whole Child, Prenatal Development Through Adolescence by Jennifer Paris, Antoinette Ricardo, and Don Ryman. How We Learn, Why Brains Are Better Than Any Machine for Now by Stanislas Dehaene. The Wiley Handbook of Early Childhood Care and Education, edited by Christopher P. Brown, Mary Benson McMullen, and Nancy File, and Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. So, to understand exactly how a child learns anything, we have to start with the very organ that allows all children to learn, the brain. Some people think that the brain is a blank slate that just gets filled with information as a child develops in life. This is far from the truth. The development of the brain is a result of many factors that occur in a child's life, even from the moment of conception. According to Paris and colleagues in the Understanding the Whole Child textbook, there are several underlying principles of development to keep in mind. First, development is lifelong and change is apparent across the lifespan, and early experiences affect later development. Second, development is multidirectional. We show gains in some areas of development while showing loss in other areas. And finally, development is multidimensional. We change across three-dimensional domains and dimensions: physical, cognitive, and social and emotional. The physical domain includes changes in height and weight, changes in gross and fine motor skills, sensory capabilities, the nervous system, as well as the propensity for disease and illness. The cognitive domain encompasses the changes in intelligence, wisdom, perception, problem-solving, memory, and language. The social and emotional domain, which is also referred to as the psychosocial domain, focuses on changes in emotion, self-perception, and interpersonal relationships with families, peers, and friends. From conception, a set of DNA develops the hereditary set of predispositions a child will have in life. According to Paris and colleagues in Understanding the Whole Child, to quote, almost all human features are polygenic, or a result of many genes, and multifactorial, or a result of many factors, both genetic and environmental. It's as if one's genetic makeup sets up a range of possibilities which may or may not be realized depending on one's environmental experiences. So essentially, one's genotype may show itself based on the environment one is placed in depending on the context, or an environment may be shaped by the way a person is predisposed to be. With this, I will explain environment correlations. Environment correlations refer to the processes by which genetic factors contribute to variations in the environment. There are three different genotype environment correlations that have been hypothesized. There's passive genotype environment correlation, which occurs when children passively inherit the genes and the environments their family provides, passively, meaning without any control of their own. It's just what they are given. Then there's evocative genotype environment correlation, which refers to how the social environment reacts to individuals based on their inherited characteristics. So therefore, the environment then is shaped by how a person changes it in accordance with their genetic predisposition. Then there's the active genotype environment correlation, which occurs when individuals seek out environments that support their predisposed genetics. For example, like a tall person may just naturally have a knack for basketball simply due to their genetic height. To quote Stanislas Dehaene from her book, How We Learn, Why Brains Learn Better Than Any Machine for Now, in the immature brain, synapses do not emerge in direct proportion to how much learning occurs. Rather, they are created in excessive numbers, and the role of the environment is to keep them or prune them, depending on their utility for the organism. Now, keeping all this in mind, one important thing I must explain is that just because a correlation occurs with a child in their environment in which a predisposed genotype is discovered, doesn't necessarily mean that the environment or the predisposition itself is the causation of one or the other. This is a very important lesson in statistics that must always be kept in mind when observing a correlation of events. Correlation does not equal causation. Now, back to explaining synapses and pruning from Dehaene's quote. To reference Paris and colleagues again, from the Understanding the Whole Child textbook, at birth, the child's brain has about 100 to 200 billion neurons present. Neurons are the fundamental cells in the brain responsible for receiving sensory input from the external world. which also send motor commands to our muscles and transform and relay electrical signals at every step in between. Although not fully mature, dendrites, which are connections between neurons, will undergo a period of transient exuberance, or temporary dramatic growth. After this dramatic increase in neurons, neural pathways that are not used will be eliminated, thereby making those that are used much stronger. As a result of the child's brain going through synaptogenesis, or the formation of connections between neurons, and synaptic blooming, which is the period from infancy to toddlerhood of rapid neural growth, which occurs primarily in the cortex, involved in voluntary activity and thinking. Experience will shape which of these connections are maintained and which of these are lost. Ultimately, approximately 40% of these connections will be lost. As the prefrontal cortex matures, a child is increasingly able to regulate and control emotions, plan activities, strategize, and have better judgment. Brain maturation also allows improved reflexes and motor skills. So, what kind of environment can be designed well to cultivate the natural tendencies of a socially engaging child to help them learn more? Well, we will look to schools, for schools are the environment in which our culture sees the opportunity for growth in a child's education. Referring to the neuronal recycling process, where neurons are repurposed for developing functions, Dehaene explains in her How We Learn book, to quote, "Any cultural learning must rely on the repurposing of a pre-existing neural architecture whose properties it recycles. Education must therefore fit within the inherent limits of our neural circuits by taking advantage of their diversity, as well as of the extended period of neural plasticity, which is a characteristic of our species." In the Wiley Handbook of Early Childhood Care and Education, edited by Christopher P. Brown, Mary Benson McMullen, and Nancy File, it is explained how policies and curricula can be designed around these natural ways that children develop. From Chapter 8 of the Wiley Handbook, titled Early Childhood Care and Education for Bilingual Children and the Road to Multilingualism, policies are usually developed according to specific political and sociocultural contexts and shaped by the circumstances faced by each early care and education system. Most of the curricula and instructional approaches in early education have been designed from the perspective of identifying effective practices to promote early learning among monolingual children and from a monocultural mainstream perspective. As a result, children growing up in bilingual environments that involve a non-dominant language and are surrounded by a culture that is not the mainstream culture end up being framed as deficient, lacking the abilities and knowledge to, quote, succeed in school. So what is a better way to allow the education system to cater to all children who develop in their own unique contextual ways? From the Wiley Handbook, we'll look at Chapter 13, titled More Than Academics, Supporting the Whole Child, where they say, there is a growing consensus about the value of holistic approaches in promoting positive development in early learning. There is a growing conviction of the fundamentally integrated nature of development, as I explained in the beginning in the underlying principles of development, spurred especially by advances in developmental neuroscience. Therefore, a supporting curriculum to support this nature of development should have three domains of focus. First, it should support a child's physical development and well-being. Second, provide emotional support and development. And third, cater to all children's approaches to learning. With these implementations, subjects such as reading and literacy, mathematics, and science should focus on the domains of cognitive development, motor and physical development, social and emotional development, and language development. The positive effects of these domains can increase a child's ability to concentrate and perform executive function skills effectively, such as paying attention, organizing, planning, and prioritizing. Looking at information gained through domains of quantitative reasoning, we can understand how attention works in people. According to Daniel Kahneman in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, he explains the two modes of thinking a person utilizes as they apply and gather knowledge. These are known as System 1 and System 2. System 1 operates automatically and quickly, with little or no effort and no sense of voluntary control. System 2 allocates attention to the effortful mental activities that demand it, including complex computations. The operations of System 2 are often associated with the subjective experience of agency, choice, and concentration. To quote, everyone has some awareness of the limited capacity of attention, and our social behavior makes allowances for these limitations. So, children, therefore, learn through interaction and reciprocation with their bodies, their environments, and their social context. By implementing a growth mindset through teaching, a child can understand setbacks and failures as areas to improve upon and learn from, as opposed to being barriers of incompetence and limitation. By examining a child's zone of proximal development, an educator can apply scaffolding to a child's current understanding of a particular subject and fill in the spaces between to guide them to a level of understanding which the educator wants the child to acquire. Here are my references, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. Take care. See you next time.